Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. Laurel High School students a bit starstruck today.
For more than a decade, they've had their eyes in the sky, dreaming and planning for this very day as they get to connect with the International Space Station some 220 miles above the Earth.
We'll have that story in just a moment, but first some breaking news tonight. Local authorities have engaged in a standoff in downtown Billings. Q2
Samantha Harrelson is standing by there to bring us the latest on this developing story. Sammy, what do you have for us?
Well, Jay and Jeanelle, initial reports came in of shots fired at officers at a residence here on the 1600 block of 2nd Avenue North. We understand that the suspect or suspects have now barricaded themselves inside the residence here. Billings Police, SWAT team, U.S. Marshal's Office, and the probation and parole officers are all on scene at this point. Just about 15 minutes ago, the Bear arrived on scene. That's the large armored vehicle shared by the Billings Police Department and the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office. At this point, authorities have not said what started the standoff, and we do not know if officers fired back at the suspect or suspects inside the home. We will continue to bring more information as it becomes available. For now, Jay and Jeanelle, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you. Q2 Samantha Harrelson reporting live from the 1600 block and 2nd Avenue North in downtown Billings.
And we'll, of course, have the latest on this developing story for you as soon as we learn more at ktvq.com.
Well, 13 years ago, NASA approached Laurel High School to get involved in a program called Hunch, Hands-on Education with NASA.
And ever since then, students have been creating projects that could actually someday make it into space. And today, the kids had the opportunity to speak live with an astronaut on the International Space Station.
Q2 Zoe Zandora was there for this earthly conversation.
Laurel Public Schools, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
In 2005, NASA chose Laurel High School as a test school for the High School Students United with NASA to Create Hardware program, also known as Hunch. The test? To see if a long-distance school from an international space station could participate and make training hardware for NASA. Since then, the program has spread to all 4 time zones and have over 150 schools in 31 states. Fast forward 13 years, and Laurel students now are more connected to space than ever.
If we had failed, this wouldn't have spread so rapidly.
Laurel High School students are given projects by NASA to work on year-round, but today, during Space Day, they're launching to new levels, talking to an astronaut live in space through a downlink.
Station, this is Laurel Public Schools. How do you hear me?
I've got you loud and clear on the International Space Station.
The student who is Ethan Gretwell, he asked the astronaut, well, how do you appreciate the NASA Hunch projects? Well, and the astronaut responded with that they were going to get a new lid for their trash container, and it was the astronaut didn't know it, but it was Ethan who designed that lid.
It was cool because I was selecting the questions, and I really wanted to ask mine because I wanted to know what the astronauts thought about the Hunch projects, because we haven't really heard from the astronauts what they think about them, but it was really cool to hear them talk about it today.
And for someone like Matt Walila, who was a part of the original Hunch trial team program at Laurel, he says he couldn't be more proud. He remembers the support of the surrounding communities that enabled the program to succeed back in 2005, creating something that blew NASA's mind.
It started with just a question and some determination and hard work, and 13 years later the program is involving the entire district and districts all over Billings, our school district too, and creating all sorts of stuff for NASA and their needs, and it's just really remarkable to see how much it has grown.
I hope that they let us work on a lot more high-profile projects when they're trying to go to Mars and stuff. Maybe we'll get the opportunity to work on stuff for that trip, which would be really cool.
I'm hoping that one of our Hunch students will someday be an astronaut.
Thank you to all participants from Laurel Public Schools. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
In Laurel, Zoe Zandora, MTN News.
All right, quite the day in school. Thank you, Zoe.
Wow, now Zoe tells us Hunch shows no sign of slowing down. It has a very special event coming up in the middle of May that we will continue to follow.
Elsewhere tonight, a major staffing shuffle in store at Yellowstone National Park. including a new assignment for the current superintendent, Dan Wink. The Washington Post reporting today that Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke plans to send Wink back to Washington, D.C., to the office that supervises the National Capital Parks region. The head of the Park Service Omaha office, Cameron Shawley, then would be in line to take over as Yellowstone Park superintendent.
We would anticipate and we would weigh in to make sure that whoever comes after Dan, if there is a replacement for Dan and if this does come to pass, that they have a deep understanding of the conservation issues that face Yellowstone.
And Bird believes whoever steps into the top job at Yellowstone has a good conservation ethic that helped create the park in the first place. She says among Yellowstone's top issues, overcrowding, habitat protection in both the park and the surrounding areas, and of course protection of wildlife.
President Trump and his Twitter attack on Montana Senator Jon Tester has filled the headlines this week. A tweeting storm comes over the withdrawal of Trump's nominee to head the Department of Veteran Affairs. Now, Tester's critics and potential opponents this year also say he's no friend of the president in a state that gave Trump a 20-point victory margin in 2016. But what does the record actually say about Tester's support or not? MTN's Mike Dennison decided to take a look.
In Senate votes last year where President Trump took a position, Senator Tester supported the president 52% of the time. That's according to Congressional Quarterly magazine, which tracks those votes. A lot of other Democrats and independents have a much lower rating. For example, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand supported the president only 8% of the time, and Vermont's Bernie Sanders only 13%. Montana's other U.S. Senator, Republican Steve Daines, supported Trump 98% of the time on those 117 votes where Trump had a position in 2017. CQ also says that Tester, a Democrat, voted with his party on key issues 87% of the time, a relatively low score. The lowest rating for party unity among Democrats was Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia at 64%. Manchin is another moderate Democrat up for re-election this year in a conservative state, just like Tester. We also looked at how Tester voted last year on a dozen key issues before the Senate. On these, Tester often voted against the president's position. Those votes included no votes against the confirmation of Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. Tester also voted against the repeal of Obamacare, against a bill nullifying a pro-consumer regulation for banks and other companies, and against the Republican tax cut. Tester's re-election campaign is highlighting the dozen Tester-sponsored bills that President Trump has signed. So are Montanans voting this year on Senator Tester or President Trump? Tester's the one on the ballot, of course, but it seems that Trump and others are determined to make the president a factor in Montana's 2018 election. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. Now, Senator Tester's voting record is outlined further on our website at ktvq.com.
A Shields Valley High School student is dead after crashing her car last night near Wilsall. The Montana Highway Patrol says 16-year-old Lily Auger veered off the right side of the road on Highway 89, then apparently overcorrected, which caused her vehicle to roll down a ravine. Auger was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected. No other vehicles or passengers were involved. Authorities believe speed and perhaps inexperience were factors in this crash.
The search ongoing tonight for a Wolf Point man who jumped into the Missouri River to save someone from drowning last Friday. The other individual did make it out, but 40-year-old Jason Azure did not resurface. The Roosevelt County Sheriff's Office says community volunteers have been offering their boats to help in that search. The Sheriff's Office has been out on the water every day until dark. Also, crews were able to bring in a sonar equipment with a camera to help search in areas that are unsafe for dives.
And now we head to Absaroka, where the community last night held a vigil for a woman who is presumed drowned in the Missouri River in Great Falls last week.
Nearly 100 attended the candlelight vigil to remember 21-year-old Brittany Roberts. Search and rescue crews spent most of Monday looking for Brittany and have been back out on the Missouri scouring the shore multiple times trying to locate her. The search has been hampered by weather and debris in the water. Monday night was a moment for the entire Absaroka community to gather in prayer and rally around the family.
This is truly, I hate to put it like this, but one of the best nights I've had in 7 days is being right here, right now. Because I can feel all the love and like Pastor Ralph has been talking about the light, I can feel the warmth of the light right now, and I haven't felt it in 7 days. These 7 days has felt like 7 years to me.
Now, Brittany leaves behind a 1.5-year-old son and a fiance.
You can find out more about her memorial and how to donate to her family by clicking on this story right now at ktvq.com. Still ahead on tonight's 5:30 news, youth football might be more detrimental to your child's neurological health than once thought. We'll explain.
And later in sports, Scott shows us why Q2's Athletes of the Week may as well be known as the Bash Brothers.
And coming up in weather, even though we had some measurable snow up in the mountains overnight last night, we are expecting a warm-up down here in the plains, one that will actually last through tomorrow and all the way through the weekend and into next week. We'll tell you about it coming up in a few more minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire and sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2 Montana.